welcome everybody to the book study on Rollo Tomasi's book, The Rational Male, Dating Meetups, and the Nonpartisan Red Pill Men's Group. And so what we're doing here is a book study. And so I've got this chapter on non-exclusivity, or this section, and it's a little long for a reading, so I've highlighted parts that I'm going to read from the book, but I'm also going to put up the screen with the text so that we can look at the text as well. But I'm going to be skipping through, not reading every word. And then we will just open it up for discussion and have a good time. I think what I said about marriage was that, I don't know if I've come to the conclusion recently that for marriage to survive, did I say this? For marriage to survive as an institution, it's going to need to financially benefit both parties. That it cannot be a
Yeah.
relationship that is one-sided financially. It's going to have to come, if it's going to survive, women have got to come to realize that it's a relationship, a partnership that should benefit both parties financially. Children are an expense, but your woman should not be. Not in that type of relationships. Your woman should be contributing. So,
That's a good
but
point.
yeah, and I think if we could get people to think more that way, we might have a better situation between women and men. And because right now the change is happening. I keep going, but please raise your hand if you want to say something. But there's major changes going on. The fact that women earn their own money now is a major change. Like I heard, I forget his name, but um, the idea of opening doors for women was because at a certain point in time, so many doors were closed to women. The idea of paying for women was because women had no money, no job, no resources. You know, now it's different. It's a huge change for women to gain financial equality with men. And that is not conducive with their sexuality. Their sexuality is still, I like to say that men have changed. We've become less sexist. We respect women. We allow them to supervise us. We honor, judge us. You know, women have not changed in their attitudes towards men, and they've not changed in their behaviors or their sexual behaviors. We're not catcalling women anymore, and if they continue to look for men as economic resources for themselves, I think men are going to drop out because we're not just a resource,
They want their cake and eat it too.
right, exactly. They want both. And I think also men need to learn to stand up to women and to stand up for their own interests because feminism a long time ago in the 90s, 80s, 90s has decided that feminism is about pursuing women's interests. That all you need to be a feminist is to pursue the interest of women. It's not about equality. Men die for women in war. Men are drafted. It's not equal. Men are paying for shit on dating, and they don't care about that. They expect you to continue. And you know what? Dating is expensive. You know, I, 4 dates, what is that? $400? $350 at
At least.
minimum? Yeah. And prostitution is based, I think, on the average price of a date. So if the
I
average,
still feel obliged to pay on a date, it's just my upbringing. I always feel that it's the guy that does the asking. The woman says yes or no, and if, at least on a first date, um, I pay, and I don't even like question it.
right, and you are obligated. It's a social construct created by women. It's a social practice that you really are, especially on the first date. But I let women know pretty early that that's not cool. In some ways,
Um,
to me, I don't like it.
I think you can still strike a balance. You can still pay, just not overextend yourself. Like that's why like I think most dates these days, first date's a coffee date. I mean, coffee
Yes,
for two people shouldn't go above $5 or $10.
right.
And you can weed out if now if she's there just to use you for a $100 date, you can easily weed those people out. So you're weeding out the bad apples without having to spend anything time or money up front. So and I think the generational shift, I don't think men have adapted. We have in metro areas women out earning men. I'm talking about the younger generation, uh, millennials and Gen Z. So for men to adopt practices from the 1960s in 2024, I think it's shooting themselves in the foot. And yeah, I think especially now with dating apps, what dating apps have shown us, sadly, is that appearance, whether it's a picture on the app or our physical appearance, matters more than it did before. So I think it's less now about, of course, you gotta have masculine qualities and tendencies, no doubt about it. But that initial men are more likely to be judged by that cover of the book than women are. So I think, and I speak for myself, is that as men, we're not nearly interested in putting on our best foot, whether it's what we say or how we look or how we present ourselves. So there's work that we have to do on our end as well, and that doesn't really get discussed nearly enough in the red pill space. Or maybe that's just not what I'm aware of. Maybe some people do. And red pill is just this whole mishmash of different ideas. I'm sure people are bringing some awareness to it, but it's just not something that I'm hearing enough of in my personal opinion. So
Mm. Yeah, very good, very good. Thank you, Jay. If pe people want to turn on their cameras, that would be great. If not, that's cool too. And Kathy, I'm going to, because I think that that's true. One thing I was going to say, I tell women that, and last night I went out on a date with a woman and I paid for the dinner as first date. And but she took me to her business and she gave me some exfoliant and some cream and stuff that her product that she sells. And that's like worth $50 there, what she sells it for. And so she's given me something. Um, and I find that I have a woman now, I have a rule. If a woman is 5 years older than me, I ask her to pay for the dates. If she doesn't want to pay for the
I,
dates, no problem. Yeah. And I have women doing that. And then I have another woman, she'll pop up and pay for a date. At least once a month. Hi, Kathy. Come on in, Kathy. Unmute yourself so we can hear you. And then,
Yes, I just wanted to ask a question like advice.
okay.
Um is it right to ask a guy out to dinner? And do you know that if I was to like guys that I know, not strangers, but guys that I know,
Hmm.
guys who I'm already acquainted with, is it right to ask them out to dinner? And do you know what their reaction will be if I was to ask a guy who is like who's who's my age, like someone who is in my age group?
Hmm.
That's what I prefer. Do you know what the reaction will be if I was to ask a guy out to dinner?
Um,
he'd be so grateful. He'd do backflips for you.
right. Kathy, you turned off your camera. Did you want to turn it back on? I don't know if you did that purposely. We'd love to see your beautiful face, actually. Um,
Um, I just prefer to
Nothing
keep it
turns a
off
guy
for
on more
now
than
because I just kind of camera shy a little bit, and
okay,
I do need the advice because I explained some things before, and
I
I
remember.
just wanted to get the advice.
Okay. Um,
Yeah,
okay, so Clint wants to come in here. Let me hold on a second because I do have a response for you, um, Kathy, and I think I will double down on Matthew, but individuals are also different. Clint, would you like to
yeah,
make your
yeah,
point?
yeah. I was going to say exactly that, Richard. it's an individual, just as men never know what a woman's going to say if he asks her out. I think it would be only fair. It seems that we're going with the concept that when a man asks a woman out to dinner, which is expensive, he pays for the first date. With women now getting more education than men, and some maybe even earning as much or more than men, one might say, it would seem maybe feminist or equitable or whatever for whoever is the initiator to pay for that date. Now, in reality, I don't know that. I mean, maybe the best men can expect at this point is that they'll split the bill, or he'll pay the tip, or she'll pay the tip. But I don't know what you think about this, Richard. But it's I actually had a woman that I dated, a became a girlfriend, that like she asked me out, and then she wanted to go to the movies, and we're I figured, well, okay, I guess we're paying. But if you each pay for each other, is that really a date? But then so we're walking up to the box office, and she says, after she asks me out to the movie, she says, I'm not used to paying. So, I mean, I don't know what the
Uh,
answer is here. Richard, you may have some advice for us.
Yeah, I think I do. So go to Kathy first, and I would say that I think it is appropriate. I think most men would be responsive to that. You do have to read the body language. Sometimes we may find a man that's like us. We ask a woman out, and she's not interested. That's something that happens when you ask a woman out. And it may be the case that sometimes you ask a guy out and he's not interested. I think Clint made a good point to some extent. Then you might want to say, I'll ask, come on out to dinner and I'll pay, if you want to do that, because sometimes women will do this to you where they say, I want to go here, right? And I'm not going to pay for there, I'm not going to pay for here, you know. Um, and so, or, and they will try and lead the date. If a man is paying, and the same with a woman who's paying, they have the right to choose where to go because they're paying. It's their date. You're in the man's frame, right? But for a woman, it might be a little different because you're not supposed to be in the man's frame so much. But you can relinquish that frame. You can take him out. You can pay for the dinner and still be feminine and submissive, not necessarily submissive, but feminine and so forth. And on an equal basis, because I think what men are asking for is equality. We're asking for equal treatment, not just in the workplace, but in our personal lives as well. And I think a lot of men have gone the opposite direction and made a mistake by being led into conservative ideas of we don't want women to vote, we want to go backwards. But as Rollo Tomassi says, the only direction we can go is forwards from here. And so, but I do think that offering to pay is great too. Or if you want to just go Dutch, that's fine too. If you want to, but it's kind of awkward if you're saying, take me out, right? If you're asking a guy out, you're asking the guy out if you're asking him to take you out and pay. It's a little awkward. It might work, but it's a little awkward. But I think, and the man's reaction should generally be positive. Now, some women might
Okay.
think that, yeah, some women might think that. Did you want to say something, Kathy?
So it will be what you're saying is that it's a good thing to ask a guy out to dinner and he will appreciate it and might say yes.
Yes, yes. Now, the thing that we men find though is sometimes the women we ask out don't want to go out with us. And so you have
Oh,
to be
okay.
prepared for that. So if you choose
Okay.
a man, sometimes, you choose the hot guy, um, you know, then maybe because women tend to choose the hot guy, So but let's bring Jay in.
Yeah,
Um,
I just had a quick because I just had what Kathy's describing. I just had it happen to me last week where I messaged a woman initially on an app, and the conversation went well, and I'll be honest, I was busy with other things and I kind of let the conversation die. And she messages me a month later. It's like, hey, can we hang out? And so I was like, all right, cool, absolutely. And it was kind of like my job to initiate, but I, you know, got sidetracked and started doing other things. I completely forgot about her in the conversation. So our first meetup, and I hate to even call it a date because then the word date puts all this expectations and the whole dinner thing. I think it's really a throwback to like the 50s and 60s when the man used date to show women, hey, I can provide for you, and I'm gonna try to woo you. And the environment now is anything but that. We've moved so far from that. So I don't even like dinner. This is my personal opinion, right? Feel free to disagree. I don't like to use dinner because dinner is literally just that sort of 1950s style, and we just don't live in that world anymore. So you guys might laugh at this, but we met up at Costco, walked through Costco. It's really about the vibes, how we vibe with each other. It's a vibe check, right? What we're saying, are we on the same wavelength in terms of values, our sense of humor, conversations? And then we ended the quote unquote date with food court, literally just having pizza and soda and getting one of their delicious frozen uh, lattes or whatever. And I was like, fantastic. This is better, literally, than any traditional date I could have thought of. And it's
Yeah.
fantastic. Now we're just waiting to, set up a date number two. And so I would just say, like, if you are in that position, like, where you're trying to put forward this idea of like meeting up, I would probably refrain from using the word date. And I would probably not, I'd probably stay away from dinner as well, just because there's a lot of expectations with what a dinner looks like, and you're worried about yourself. And some people are concerned about eating in front of other people. That's a thing, right?
Yeah.
So, just some ideas for you to consider.
yeah, yeah, it might be like just hang out or let's go to the mall or let's go get some coffee, as Jay suggested. Might not have to be a full-fledged dinner, especially if or let's go do something, you know. So, yeah, I think that would so helpful really to men, because we are put in a situation where we have to do that, and it's difficult for a lot of men. Now, Clint brought up something that was interesting that I heard women say, if somebody doesn't pay, is it really a date? I think that's sure it is. I mean, I've had women say, okay, I'm paying, but it's not a date, you know? And I'm like, and then I've gone to singles groups where they want to make the men pay for women. And it's like, it's not a date. And I'm like, it's not a date, you know? So, and dates are expensive, they're very, over time, it costs money, you know, and so I think it's helpful if women share in that. Um, but go ahead, Kathy.
So if I was to like write a text message to someone, to a
Hmm.
guy, how should I say it? Like, to ask him to go to dinner. Should I say like, um, we should we should hang out? Should I say that?
Uh, well, hangout has a certain tone to it, so I'm not sure if hangout is the greatest word, but it's kind of like that. But if your plan is to take him to dinner, you can say, hey, you want to go get a bite to eat? You want to go get a bite to, I'll pay, if you're going to pay. You want to go get the bite to eat? I'll pay. You know, and that would be good. And you could, if you want to call him, talk to him for a little while, and then ask him, that's great too. Sometimes the text is a little buffer, you know, but if you can't, if you know, give him a call and ask him, you know, that I think women sometimes it depends. What would you prefer, Kathy? Would you prefer that a man call you to ask you out, or would you want him to ask you out by text?
If the guy has my phone number, he could call me. I think for me, texting or even an email
Mhm.
is is good because sometimes I can't answer my phone at the time someone calls me.
Okay.
So I think texting or an email um would work, and just just to show that like I'm on good terms with the person, or the person the guy wants to be on good terms with me. I'm thinking maybe emoticon, like a
Hmm.
smiling face or something friendly. Is A smiling face would be okay. I'm okay with that because, as I mentioned, I had an experience that I didn't want to have.
Okay.
And that really wasn't because of my judgment. Actually, it was because of a psychotherapist.
Okay.
And she was so horrible. I just I regret having spoken to her. But she and it did not um the connection with the guy wasn't ended in not a good way. So I that was many years ago, and so that's why I'm in this situation. But I mean, I learned about forgiveness,
Hmm.
and to honestly forgive the guy himself, forgive myself, and this is the hardest thing, is to forgive the psychotherapist, because I'm guessing that she knew what she was saying, but when I asked her a question, she didn't want to answer it.
Hmm.
And she left me with I left her office with a negative thought, and it was circulating like that in my mind, and it turned out to be negative. And I am disgusted with the psychotherapist, and but I just learned that I had to forgive the guy, forgive myself,
Hmm.
and the main thing, it's hard, but I am working my way through is through this, is to forgive that psychotherapist.
Hmm.
And just in reality, is be nice to people, be nice to everyone. And I think that when when I'm nice, or anyone is nice in general to other people, um, the optimistic viewpoint of life comes out. And I just think that, because I also heard about that too, like optimistic people versus pessimistic people have different experiences in life. So I don't appreciate the psychotherapist for letting me ask a negative type of question. She didn't answer it, and it ended in a bad situation. But I did learn forgiveness, and just I guess turn my attitude around, and not to think negatively, but be kind to people, and be mindful of um definitely be mindful to guys, and girls also. I mean, everyone, just be more of a um positive type of person, someone more optimistic, and um to be more optimistic, and to be more positive, and to know that being nice to people does matter, because it was something that happened on the internet, that it wasn't my intention to have the outcome be so negative. But uh that's why I'm asking these questions. Because even if someone wanted to contact me, he shouldn't be afraid to contact me, because I'm not gonna block anyone. Just I learned to forgive most of all. That forgiveness, I learned to forgive.
Right.
I it's hard. It is so hard to forgive the psychotherapist, but I'm working through that and forgive everyone who got in the way of her psychotherapy.
So, yeah, sometimes women have some negative attitudes towards men, and sometimes men have some bad attitudes towards women. And you know, Jay, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, I noticed that Samuel wanted to say something, so I do want
yeah.
to go to
Okay.
him. But I also wanted to ask Cathy something real quick. By the way, completely empathize with the experience with the psychotherapist. Hope you recover from that traumatic experience. My question to you, Cathy, was real quick was you are going to ask this guy out. Hopefully it goes well. But let me ask you this because we discussed this earlier. But what attracted you to him? Was it the looks, the height, or was it the vibes? Was it combination? Just wanted to get your perspective on that real quick.
It was the looks is one thing. And some other things. I'll be honest that the way a guy looks is something that I'll notice right away. And yeah, I mean it was the looks and getting vibes back if this guy liked me or not. But I will use my discretion on asking whoever I want to ask to go to dinner, because um I know I have to use my discretion. Like I have to kind of remember what this person it was like.
In the 1930s, Hitler didn't just seize power. It was handed to him by the wealthy, by the powerful, by a compliant elite, by people who thought they were above the angry masses and violent anti-Semites. He was given power by Germans who knew what he believed, but thought they could contain him, control him, that his crazed speeches and dangerous antics were just for show, that his hatred would never turn on them. But like every dictator before or since, Hitler used his power to bring death, despair, and tragedy to the world. Before the world said, never again, millions of Germans believed, it can't happen here. Germany bet wrong in 1933. Will we?
He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one.